main relationships really need to be based in a friendship, because if you don't have some type of friendship in a committed relationship, you're not really getting the full potential of it anyway. So that ability to be a little bit more vulnerable with the friends with benefits is definitely a plus.
Bed. Love.
Bed.
Bed.
Love.
Beyond.
Beyond.
Bed, love, beyond. Bed, love, beyond.
Hey, what is going on? This is Bed Love Beyond, the podcast for the hopeful and the hater in us to discuss sex, love, and whatever's clever with like-minded people like you who are also in limbo in love.
Like us.
Thank you for listening to us on Podbean, iTunes, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and
Google Play Music.
thank you for listening to us on all the devices that you listen to.
Yeah.
All right, and today's episode is episode 76. From FWB to you and me, should you ever turn your situationship into a relationship?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one here, and we decided to get some backup. So we have a special guest, and she is a clinical sexologist and a psychotherapist and author, Katie Overstreet.
Christy.
Oh, sorry. Wow. Christy Overstreet. I can't read.
I was like, who's Katie?
Thanks so much for having me. I will almost respond to anything.
No, that was my fault. Christy Overstreet. There you go. All right. So, so you have this book called Fix Yourself First, 25 Tips to Stop Ruining Your Relationship. What is that all about?
Well, what I find, especially with women, a lot of times women will try their best to change their partner, sit around and wasting a relationship, waiting for their partner to change. And so what the book targets is women's behavior to stop ruining the relationship and take it into their own hands by changing this behavior and fixing the relationship themselves, because what we find is when you change, your relationship's going to change. And what's interesting, sometimes that change isn't always for the better from your partner. So it gives you that opportunity to change the behavior and see if you need to stay or go in that relationship. So it takes 25 of those common behaviors, and it tells you where they come from and then what you need to do to change them to get the relationship you deserve.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting.
I feel like I needed to read that book at some point in life, and I maybe should skim over it now.
I'll be sure to send you a copy, too.
Beautiful, beautiful. Before we get into the whole subject matter of friends with benefits and all that stuff, please, can you just tell us about yourself?
Sure. I'm a clinical sexologist, and it's kind of wild, as we were chatting earlier, that they would actually give you a doctorate in clinical sexology, but it is definitely possible. And so what I do is I work with individuals and couples and relationships to help them improve, whether it's sex, intimacy, communication, connection. And let's just say I never have the same hour twice, which is really fulfilling.
Wow. I wish you lived closer.
Where are you based?
I'm based in Huntington Beach, California, so I have an office here as well as I do video work with people all across the country.
Oh, there we go.
There it is. You said the secret keyword.
You might have a new client.
You know, it's that easy button. You just kind of hit the button and then I pop up and with a magic wand fix everything. You're right.
There it is. All right. Okay, so, I mean, is there anything you want to start
No,
off?
I'm just ready to listen and learn.
I'm ready to listen and turn. All right. So with Friends with Benefits, I know we contacted you to talk about the 3 tips where you can possibly change your Friends with Benefits into a relationship. But before we get into that, how do you feel about that whole situation? But with Friends with Benefits, do you advocate it, condone it?
Absolutely. I absolutely condone it when the situation is right. Because if you've got a situation where it's a friends with benefits, that means you're deciding that I can have in some way this friendship and then get the benefit out of it at the same time. And for a lot of people where they're at that point in their life, it's definitely helpful. I think it can become hurtful when an individual wants to move out of that realm and they don't know how to maneuver it, they don't know how to get out of it, or they deal with their own, maybe even grief with losing it.
Okay. All right. Also too, we always forget that we're an international podcast. So, Jen, real quick, can you just explain what Friends with Benefits actually means?
Okay, so Friends with Benefits is basically when you have a friend of the opposite or same sex, if that's your orientation, and they are just your friend, but you have sex with them. So there's no relationship commitment as far as, titles or obligations. They kind of can come and go as they please, but when you need something of the physical nature, they kind of fulfill that need.
Would you say that is a correct assessment, Christy?
Absolutely. Great definition.
Cool. So, yeah, I noticed that, well, I mean, I don't know how far back Friends with Benefits has been going on, but I do remember back in 2011, there were 2 movies that came out 6 months between each other. One was No Strings Attached with Ashton Kutcher and Natalie Portman, and then the other one was self-titled Friends with Benefits with Mila Kunis and Justin Timberlake. So I guess before it was kind of like a seedy type of thing that nobody really talked about, but now they're like making movies out of it. So like, do you think that this is a good thing or a bad thing, that it should be kept under wraps, or hey, we should talk about it? Christy, sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. So I definitely think the more visibility, the more awareness that it is, the easier it is to talk about it. And we put things out there. We remove maybe the shame and the mystery in a bad way away from it. So having it in a movie, talking about it in day-to-day conversation is always a good thing, because especially around the area of sex and sexuality and sexual behavior, so many people have shame behind that and negative outlooks about it. So anytime we can openly talk about it, it is a good thing. So I'm glad these movies came out. And I think with the advent of dating and online dating and all the matching apps and everything that is out there, it's definitely not mysterious anymore, and it's really become acceptable.
I have to say, like, piggybacking off of what Christy said, one of my favorite parts of the movie Friends with Benefits is the part where they were like discussing their sexual wants and needs. And she was like, no, do it like this, do it like that. And a lot of times in actual relationships, people don't discuss that because they feel weird about it. Or they're like, I have to be a certain way for this man or this woman to like me. And if I'd show my freaky side to this person, they might feel a certain way about it or get freaked out and run away. But because they were just friends, she had the openness to say, hey, you're not doing that right, or you could do this, or he would say, okay, no, more to the left, more to the right, whatever it was. And it showed that it was kind of okay to even discuss sex in that setting, which I thought was kind of cool. What I thought was a little unrealistic, though, was that I never saw No Strings Attached, but at the end they ended up together, which I think is the only real downfall from Friends with Benefits, is because a lot of times one person is like, yeah, we're friends with benefits, and the other person's like, but he's gonna love me one day, and that's not necessarily what's gonna happen.
Right, absolutely, I agree, and those are really the outcomes that it's going to come to, or even that friendship is going to erode over it, so it can definitely take a turn for the negative sometimes.
Right. And I guess being in your position, have you seen that a lot of times where people think that, X, Y, and Z is going to happen, and then they're kind of left with the heartbreak of, they thought it was something more than it really was?
Absolutely. I see men and women come in that go through this or deal with that, and they're left to figure out, wait a minute, how did I miss this? And I want to go back for a moment. What you talked about that you really liked about the part of the movie is so important, that ability to communicate and speak up. And when she said what she liked and what she wanted, there was really no holds bar to that. Mm-hmm. And I really think that comes from the ability to be vulnerable with a friend. But then also, you don't really have that fear that you're going to be abandoned or left. Where in a relationship, there's so many more emotions that go along with it. there's a spirit time. Hey, if I'm honest and tell you that I want to get a little freaky or whatever that it is, you may think I'm weird, and what if you leave me? And here we are with this relationship. So I think that gives us a really important lesson how main relationships really need to be based in a friendship, because if you don't have some type of friendship in a committed relationship, you're not really getting the full potential of it anyway. So that ability to be a little bit more vulnerable with the friends with benefits is definitely a plus.
I think that's super important. I mean, they always say, like, when you have a relationship, it's important to be their friend first. But definitely when it comes to that aspect of, like, communication, especially about sexual needs and things of that nature, it's so important. And I mean, I can say my last relationship, after we broke up, we had, like, full-blown conversations about, like, what we should have been doing. And I'm like, why didn't we have this conversation when we were dating? You know? And then it was kind of like, well, would it have made a difference? I'm like, I don't know if it would have made a difference, but, like, I didn't even know you felt that way. Like, damn, if I would have known, like, maybe I could have adjusted things or whatever the case may be, or vice versa. But we just never had those conversations. Because, like, now we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and, like, it just was off the table. Like, because I wanted him to think of me as, like, lovely and pure, and and vice versa. You know, he was like, I don't want her to think, like, I'm, like, too weird or whatever. But, I mean, for some people, friends with benefits does work. But I don't know. Have you seen many cases where it's something that is, like, a better situation for someone as opposed to, like, a full-blown relationship?
Well, I would say majority of the people that I work with that come in that have been in this type of relationship situation, it doesn't turn out for a long-term relationship. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it does, but let's just say the majority, it doesn't work out the way they want it to, or the way maybe they desired or hoped or wished that it worked out.
And why would you say that is?
Well, I think expectations come along with it, even though this idea of no strings attached, especially with females, we have these expectations, even though maybe we see the reality that it is just benefits and we are friends, there's always this hope because we're looking to connect, we're looking for this long-term relationship. And even though we know what it is, there's still this hope, and it sets a lot of times these unrealistic expectations. And I find that it happens a lot of time when people are very emotional versus logical thinkers.
Right.
And they base a lot of things on how they feel about it versus the really reality of what's happening. So that's one of those situations where it can lead to someone not getting the kind of relationship they wanted out of it.
So if you have somebody who's, like, more of an emotional thinker as opposed to logical, like, what would you tell them if they came to you, like, in this situation, if they wanted to change their friends with benefit situation into something more? Like, what would be the conversation?
I would definitely ask them, first of all, are you sure you want to take this step? Because we're talking about you taking an action. You're wanting to see this friends with benefits relationship go to something more. And so, first of all, are you prepared to take an action and a big step? And if you decide to take that action or step, are you ready for the potential that it may really disrupt and possibly end the friendship? Are you ready to see them back away if that happens? So from an emotional standpoint, are you going to be able to handle your feelings and emotion and go through maybe even the grief process of losing this person as a friend if it doesn't turn out how you want to? So someone who may be more of an emotional thinker, walking them through that part of it to kind of show the reality which may happen is really helpful, because they can kind of go in the, versus getting stuck in the what ifs, they can go into, okay, if this happens, how am I going to react? Am I prepared to possibly lose this friendship because this really may happen in real life? So trying to get someone who's more of an emotional thinker to just go a little bit more to the logical thinking perspective of it. And if they're really rooted in an emotion that comes up, working with them through that, saying it's okay absolutely to feel any way that you feel about it. I'm not trying to, squash your emotions and your feelings, but it's important that we deal with the reality of it as well.
Do you have anything to that?
Well, no, yeah, because I remember, because you guys were piggyback off each other, which was great. I remember reading this article from Vogue.com about why friends with benefits are the most sustainable relationships, and there was a part in there that you guys touched upon independently, which was great. And it said, for all the benefits of friend fuckery, it's still possible for this dynamic to screw with your emotions. At different points in our relationship, it was hard to respect the line between friendship and flirting when he started dating someone else, because I'd known him more intimately than his new partner. It's like my morals were thrown out the window, and I felt this gross egotistical sense that I should come first because I've been around longer. Like, girlfriends come and go, but I'm forever. Sometimes it's hard to accept that these dynamics usually have an expiration date, which tends to be when one person gets into a committed relationship. And unfortunately, not only do you lose the benefits, but you sometimes lose the friend too. So I thought that was very interesting because we didn't even really touch upon about how about if your friend does go out with somebody and you still want to be a friends with benefits. Like, has that come in your circles, Christy?
Absolutely. And what happens in that situation is the person that is kind of left, let's just say high and dry out there now, that the friend that they were, having sex with and had these benefits with, they get into a relationship and they cut it off. And it's kind of this expectation. Okay, well, I'm in a relationship. All that stops now. And it can really hit the person who's left, really hard, and can kind of this sense, like you said, that egotistical sense that, well, this person's probably not going to be there a long time in the relationship anyway. I'll still be here maybe when he comes back around. And it's really important to manage the expectations you have in that situation, that you really have to be realistic to take it like it is, that there was a season, there was a time that you were able to get those benefits and have that friendship at the same time, but that ends. And it puts into perspective, this idea, wait a minute, do I need to speak up more? Do I need to try to turn this into a relationship, if it doesn't work out with this other person? So it can really be a pivot for this person to do something about that relationship, the person that's kind of left.
Is there an actual way, do you think, that like if somebody's in a situation that they're friends with benefits and they wanted to turn it into something more, like is there something you would recommend? I mean, besides them, being more open about their feelings and taking the steps to know that, like, you have a possibility of losing this person, like, like sometimes like they'll, like, I'll like tell friends or, people who I work with, like, don't be so like easy to like give it up, because then there's nothing left to want, like they're pretty much getting what they want and they're not really necessarily always knowing you as a person. Like they just know you as like the home girl or the friend of, whatever. So it's not like they're getting to know you like on a more deep, intimate level. And like when you just constantly just have sex and then like kind of walk away and like play video games or, walk away and go your separate ways, then I feel like the possibility of like knowing what that person wants out of a relationship dissipates. So like, is there something that maybe you would tell your clients that like if they were more serious about being with this person on a deeper level, like what they should do?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that is very important. And a lot of times we forget it. So this is advice like you would say you give to a friend about not giving it up all the time or not giving it up and being so easy to get. You are spot on. And it's so hard for us, I think, and speaking as a female, to do that at times. And I was just reading the other day. There's a great book. It's called Anatomy of Love. It talks about kind of mating and relationships and marriage. Incredible book. And in the beginning, they're talking about how mystery is so important. And there is this study of children and how they're raised together. And the study watched to see how many would actually partner up as couples later in life. This was like a multi-year study. And there's a very, very few of them that ever partnered up after even growing up together, because they say it's this sense of mystery of not knowing someone as well, that you're intrigued by that. That's why people find themselves sometimes dating someone or having an affair or cheating on someone they maybe have never met before, because this mystery of not knowing really runs deep for us as humans. And what I would suggest is for a person to really back off a bit. Like you said, take it back a couple of notches. Play the old takeaway. Don't be available all the time. Don't take the booty call in the middle of the night.
Right.
Play a little bit hard to get, a little bit tease and flirty, but let them work a little bit for it, because, people really want to work for what they're going for, and keeping a little bit of this mystery, maybe re-implementing this mystery, because if you're already having sex and an easy booty call to get to, backing it off and being a little bit more mysterious about it will really intrigue the person a lot more.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, and yeah, I think it's kind of hard when you're like in the moment as a female. Like, yeah, I've seen girls be like, "Oh, but he called," and I'm like, "Have you ever said no to him? Like, just maybe once. Like, try it. Like, what will happen if you say no? Like, is he gonna just go talk to somebody else, or like, will he wait for you, or you know?" And I think a lot of times, it's like not necessarily the thrill of the chase, but it's just like, you know, that need that like you just want what you want, and then you want it when you want it, and there is no waiting for it or whatever.
Absolutely. And I know I'm just talking about like opposite sex men and women relationships. You know, what I have found in my work over the last 11 years is men do want to pursue. Men do want to, especially in the beginning, they want to chase a bit. They want to have a little bit of a mystery. They got to put some action and work into it. And it's not always conscious, or they're not always aware of it, but it really rings true in so many cases. So it is, like you said, even though it's difficult in the heat of the moment to say no, telling him no, saying, no, I'm not available, I can't go, or no, I'm going out with somebody else, or I'm doing this or that, I really don't have time, really fans that flame of desire and mystery. Is what I found a lot of times, especially in the dating area.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now with talking about the friends with benefits and trying to secure a relationship, you have said that you have 3 tips to turn your friends with benefits into a relationship. Can you please share that with us?
Absolutely. So the first thing is, you as a person, you have to decide, do I really want this relationship? Let me give it some thought. Let me give some time. Let me list out the pro and cons. Like, if I pursue this, what's going to be the pros? If I pursue this, what's going to be the cons? So the first decision has to come from you in deciding, is this truly something you want to do? Versus just the idea, yes, this is so much fun having no strings attached, but the reality of my life, is this going to really work? And the second thing is the person you're actually in this situation with, are they really going to be worth it? Are they relationship material? Taken right out, what is your wish list for a partner? What do you want them to have? What do you want their values to be, their characteristics to be, what their hobbies to be? Like, what type of person are you looking for? List that out. And then the person that you're having sex with, and no strings attached, list out their characteristics and do a comparison. Make a decision if the person that you're currently with is going to be potential for relationship material in the first place. And what happens with a lot of people when they make their wish list and they compare it to the person that they're in this situation with, there's a lot of holes. And so it's a great way to kind of step back and logically look at the situation. And the third is what we were talking about earlier, Jen, is about, are you ready to take this action? Are you ready to take a step? If you take this step, are you ready for the outcome if you lose this friend in the process? And you taking this step means you may be out there, again, not having sex, not in any type of situation, and you may be alone again. You may be going, there may be a drought to follow. Or are you ready for this if you take this action and you're prepared to potentially lose this friendship? So that's just 3 of the things to consider in this process of turning this FWB into a relationship.
All right. Very sound advice. Very sound advice. So moving in, because we do have another topic backing off the relationship, ultimatums. Freaking matums. Right.
Oh, we're doing ultimatums today? That's so exciting.
Yeah, we're doing ultimatums today.
God, do I have questions.
Yes, good. No, because I remember I was reading some articles and stuff like that, and they're pretty much saying like the same thing. Like, nobody really wants to make an ultimatum, but at the same time, a decision must be made once an ultimatum comes up. And what do you do? And it's like I don't like ultimatums at all. I don't think anybody does. But can you please just give us a little bit of how do you feel about ultimatums, Christy?
Sure. I have so many feelings and thoughts, just like y'all do on ultimatums, professionally and personally in every which way, because I have never, even in the clinically setting, definitely in friendships I haven't, but I have never seen an ultimatum work that both people in the relationship are long-term happy. I just haven't seen it done. And you said it earlier that, no one wants an ultimatum. Nobody wants to be controlled and pushed that way. So why in the heck would we think that they're okay to put into a relationship? And so, yeah, I definitely do not agree with them. I never advise them. If I'm working with someone and they're at that space, like, I really need to do this, I'm like, okay, well, I can't tell you what to do and not do, but we need to talk about, if you're really going to do this, let's do your pro and cons when this happens. And if you put it out there, you got to be, like you were saying earlier, you got to be ready to follow up on it. You have to take action. And if you don't take action, your words mean nothing. So when you look at it in that context, yeah.
Christy, you're killing me over here.
Yeah, you're really, I wish this was on video because you are killing Jen right now.
All right, so I'll just give you.
Agreement.
I agree with you, but I do agree with you, but I'll just give you like a very brief synopsis. My boyfriend and I have been together for a year and a half. I'm 38 years old. He's 40. He owns his own place. I own my own place. But we've been together for a while, and we've talked about it, and it makes more sense for him to move in with me. So I kind of told him that, like I didn't give him a date in August. I said, but, by the time we get through August, if I don't feel like you're making moves towards moving in, I'm going to really have to reconsider this relationship, because I feel like everything has happened at, like, a very slow pace, and I also feel like it's just never going to happen if I don't say something. But now, like, I know, like, if I don't know what to do, because now if let's say September comes and he hasn't put his place on the market or whatever to rent, then I'm just going to look like an asshole because I said something and, and he understood and he said it was fair, and I know that he's slowly creeping towards it. He's got his own, like, securities about, like, leaving his man house that his first, house that he bought. And it's not a house. It's a condo, but he's got his own, like, things about he's only been there 2 years now, and it's his first place he bought, and he worked hard for it, and I get all that, but I guess, like, there's, like, a little selfish part of me that's like, okay, I want to continue with our lives, and, like, that is our only major problem. So I kind of threw an ultimatum out there, but knowing, like, how deadly that is, like, I know that if I don't follow up with it, then I feel like my word will never mean anything ever again.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that synopsis of what's happening. Can I ask one or two questions?
Sure, yeah, definitely.
And I think you mentioned at the very beginning, how long y'all been together again?
A year and a half now.
A year and a half. Okay, that's what I was thinking. And next question, is it possible for him to rent out his condo?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, he just, like, right now he's saying he just has to do some small repairs, and then he would have to, like, find a realtor, and he just wants to make sure he gets good tenants.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that's understandable, and that'd be one option too to kind of help him with that.
Yeah, I already told him that, like, because he keeps saying, "Oh, it's all on me. I'm alone. I'm the only one who has to do anything. You just have to sit there and wait for me to move." And I said, "Please don't think that that's what's going to happen." I was like, "I will help you pack. I will help you find movers. I will pay for movers if that's what needs to be done. I will help you with any painting or repairs that need to be done. I want to be part of this team and part of this decision, but." Like, it's still ultimately your decision to make. So now he's just saying, can you just, like, let me do it on my own? Like, not the work part of it, but, like, make the decision on its own, and, like, not me nagging him about it on a constant basis.
And I have to just preface just one thing. No, because I think Christy needs to know this too. Like, this is the longest that Jen has been going out with somebody who hasn't moved in.
Yeah.
That's a big thing because, what was it, like 10 months usually they move in or whatever?
My ex-boyfriend moved in after 6 months, but we didn't own anything. We just rented.
Right. Right, but like, yeah, but you've had multiple people like move in like 9-10 months. So this is like the longest. So in previous podcasts, she's been going crazy because she's like, it's been too long. And I'm like, it's only been a year. Calm down, but but I felt that I just needed to say that so you can get a really good evaluation of what the situation is.
That's a great point. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem, Christy.
Right. That's important.
No problem. I'm just here to try to help you out.
And throw me under the bus.
A year and a half is a while. I mean, it's a long time for a committed long-term relationship starting up to live separate. I am on your side with that, absolutely. Let me ask you one thing. If I'm wondering, if he was to do this on his own and on his own time, and I'm sure you've asked him this, what would it look like?
I don't.
What is his thoughts about what his own time looks like?
I don't know, to be honest with you. Like, he was always saying, like, yeah, you know, like, first, like, when we first started dating, he was like, I would maybe want to be engaged before we move in. And now he's kind of like, well, I think we should, like, live together and see if we can stand each other before we get engaged. But, like, we went on vacation together, and, like, he was like, babe, we haven't fought the whole vacation. I go, one, we don't fight that much. And two, the only thing we fight about is living together, and we've been together all week. So there's nothing to argue about, you know? Like, so I'm like, we generally get along together. Like, we are, like, good friends with each other. So we can stand each other. You know, I know he's got his, like, little boy man ways where he kind of leaves stuff places, and I've learned to, like, accept that in my days. So I'm just like, okay, you know, I don't know how long it would take. Like, he knows. I think there's a very big part of him that knows that, like, he wants a family and he wants kids, and I keep, like, telling him, like, that's all good and fine, but we have to, like, really factor in our ages here, you know, and that's, like, the main thing for me. Like, we're not getting younger, and, like, I just think, like, every time he goes to make the move to, like, make the commitment to move or, like, to put his place on the market, he gets, like, kind of cold feet about it. Like, what if it doesn't work? Because he keeps saying, like, what if I move in with you and we break up? Then I have nowhere to live. I have to go back and live with my mom. And I'm like, why do you think we're going to break up? Like, why do you even have that negative thought in your head? Like, and I know he's had, like, only one really long-term relationship, you know, which lasted 8 years and ended in a breakup. But then he went back and moved with his mom and eventually saved his money and bought this condo. But I get his fears, but I don't know how to, like, ease them. But I also don't know how to, like, kind of stick to my guns with, like, how I'm feeling. Because if this goes on another 6 months, like, it's going to just cause a lot more issues in the relationship that aren't even really necessary issues, but they are upsetting. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you're spot on. I think, especially with the fear part, because this is all fear on his end, and that's what, in your words, the cold feet, that's what that's about. So maybe you could ask him these 3 questions.
Okay.
Number 1, what can I do to help ease your fear about moving in with me? What can I do? Is there anything I can do to help ease your fears? Number 2, you've mentioned that you want to do this on your own. Can you just help me understand what it looks like? Now, you're not asking for time. You're not asking for how many months. You're saying, tell me what it looks like. I'd like to know what it looks like for it to be done on your end. You're wanting to be the one to bring this forward to move in. What does it look like? Or what do you imagine that it looks like? And give him that opportunity to share. He may say, well, I don't know. Okay, so you're saying you don't know what it looks like. So that's, you know, you need to take a look at that, boyfriend. What you're looking like and looking at. You want to do it that way. So I need you to spend some time thinking about what that looks like and come back and tell me. And number 3, you want to take and say you're worried about how to move back in with mom. I can hear just in you sharing, Jen, his pride, which is so normal and great and good, his pride in owning that condo, and it means so much to him, and he's worked his ass off to get it. I know there's pride behind that. So we want to nurture that and encourage in the end of, what do we need to do to keep that? What do we need to do for you to rent it? Do we need to do some minor repairs? Can I help? What can we do on that end so that you feel that you still have that? Because this is a way of him still holding on to himself as an independent person, and you want to nurture that. But then you also want to see how the 2 of you can collaborate to make that work. And then after asking him these 3 questions and going through these things, listen to what he's sharing, take the next couple of weeks to hear his feedback, and then depending towards maybe the 3-4 weeks in end of August or 4 weeks in August, look and say, you know what, we've talked about this, I've heard about this, I'm really trying to figure out what we need to do to be able to move forward. And I need to think about it on my end, and I need you to think about it on your end, so that he knows that you're following up on that. Let's just maybe not even call it ultimatum. You threw out there, you just threw out hey, I need to look at this if we don't take X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So you didn't make it a demand, and you didn't make it this very high expectation of him, which is really good. So I think if you take the next couple weeks to talk with him about these 3 questions and see what evolves from it, and tell him you want to collaborate with him on this as a couple, you do not want to compromise. You want to collaborate.
Right. I think he'd be open to having those conversations. I mean, I know a little bit of like what he said it would look like, and like I see that kind of happening. Like he had a major test he had to take, and for right now he's going to put it on hold because it's not just going the way he wants to. But I asked him, I'm like, now do I still have to? Are we still waiting for you to like pass that test, or is that putting on hold and you're going to the next step? And he's like, no, I'm just going to the next step. So I'm like, okay, so this week should be the week where he starts to look into the next step, which is looking into what needs to be repaired into the into the place. So I'm not like getting on his back yet or mentioning it yet. I'm kind of just gonna like let the week or 2 go by and see how much he gets done. But I know that ultimatums are like so damaging. But I just had to bring that up, and I do thank you for your advice. It was definitely very sound, and I will definitely explore those questions with him. But I feel like I just like jumped right into your thing here, Rotini.
Oh no, that was great. I was just sitting here like eating my popcorn and just like enjoying the show.
Martin, you're like, collaborate. Yes, go collaborate. You need to collaborate. Yes.
No, that was really good. But so I know you personalized your situation for Jennifer, but for anybody else, I know you said ultimatums don't work in your eyes, and you have a solution to do what to do instead. So can you give us some pointers on what we can do besides doing ultimatums?
Absolutely, and taking what Jen was sharing a couple of moments ago is bringing a collaboration. If it's an ultimatum, and the most common ones that I see is, if you don't propose to me by X, Y, and Z, I'm leaving. And so I'm just going to use that one as another example. When you throw these ultimatums and demands out there, you absolutely are pushing the person to take an action that they may not be ready for, and it's going to explode in some way down the road. So what to do instead is for you to think about what about this is so important right now. I'm feeling like I need to put a time frame on when I need to take this, let's just say, next step in my life, and I need this person to come and take this step with me and propose to me. And what to do instead would be, what is about the timeline? If I'm going to put this timeline out there, am I prepared to end the relationship if they don't? So it's important to go and say, I don't want to end the relationship. I don't want the relationship to change in any sort of way. I do want us to progress and move forward, but we need to look and collaborate. I'm not going to put an ultimatum on you, but I need to hear about what it looks like from your end, and if you have any thoughts on what the future and plans look for you, and if I'm in it. And then if it matches your ability to go along with that, you go along with it and see how it goes. If it doesn't and you feel really strongly about it, you have to be able to say, I'm not going to give that ultimatum, but I'm going to need things on a different timeline than you have, and I'm prepared to lose this relationship because it's not going to work out for my end. And going and letting them know that you're that serious about it, say, I'm going to let you go, and I'm not going to have hard feelings. It's going to be hard as hell to go through it, but I'm prepared to leave the relationship because it's not fitting my timeline. You have to be prepared to follow through with that. Or what it does for a lot of people is it gives the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm not ready to lose this relationship yet. I'm going to be patient with you, as patient as I can be, and see kind of how my feelings are taken into consideration, trying to see what actions you're taking. And what happens is the other partner, a lot of times, let's just say the guy in the situation, will see you back off. They will see you maybe even get a little bit more interest in your own life, do your own activities, do your own hobbies, start living your life, maybe even a little bit more independently. And kind of that old takeaway or pulling back sometimes will cause that ripple in that relationship, that guy to step forward and say, hey, I've thought about this. I am ready to move forward, but it's not right now. I'm thinking within the next year or the next 6 months. So backing off and kind of pulling back from those demands and ultimatums and just kind of pulling back gives the opportunity for the other person to move forward.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. Because I guess speaking of the man in the house, it's just it really is detrimental when somebody just puts it in black and white like that. just like do this or this will happen, and you just like you feel very resentful. You're like, I mean, there's it's a lose-lose for the guy, I think. So it's like, okay, fine, all right, I guess I'll do this then, since I want to keep this relationship going. But now you're super resentful and you don't want to do anything.
Absolutely. And don't you think, from your perspective too, as a guy, that affects in some way your ability with trust with that relationship? Like, it definitely triggers some trust issues, because you're feeling backed in the corner, you're feeling manipulated, you're feeling, wait a minute, what's going to happen again in the future if I don't do something she wants? And that resentment, anger can just build from the inside, and it will come out in different kind of behaviors.
This sounds so familiar. When my boyfriend gets like crabby or mad, he's like, "You just want to control me." I was like, "That's not what I want." Like, and like I know he's saying it like out of anger, but it's like, I'm not trying to control you. Like, I just want our relationship to progress, and like I want to have a future with you, and I want like my person to wake up with to be you. And then he's like, "Well, why didn't you say it like that?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I've been saying all this, sir." I was like, "Why aren't you listening?" And he's like, "I guess that's not what he hears. All he hears is, when are you moving in? When are you moving in? When are you moving in?" And I'm like, just, if I say to him, like, because I'll leave like on the weekend and I'll be like, "Oh, I really missed you." He's like, "Why do you make me feel bad?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm just really just expressing to you how I feel, like, and it will be a lot easier when we live together. Like, we don't live super far from each other, but I mean, people who like work full time, 5 days a week, it's like exhausting to then like get in the car and sit in traffic and then have to go home. And because since I work from home, like I kind of like have to be here first thing in the morning, so it's like a whole thing. And he has a very different schedule than I do, so I just feel like it will be a lot more convenient for our relationship when we cohabitate. And I guess I have to find better ways to kind of like let him know that, other than just constantly being like a little bird in his ear, like, hey, hey, hey.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great point, because a lot of times, and now I'm not speaking for all men there, but I'm just saying for a lot of men that I work with, they hear two things. They hear, number one, I'm not doing something right again.
Oh, I've heard this so many times. Go ahead.
Yes, that's the first thing, right? And that's the last thing men or women want to hear, but definitely men. They don't want to hear that they're wrong or doing something wrong again. The second thing they hear is they hear a problem that they can't give a solution for right now, and they feel absolutely helpless. Men extract information and communicate to problem solve. Women, we talk to problem solve, and we talk 100 words, and men may use 5.
Right.
And what happens is, when men can only take in so much, so they stop and shut down, and if they give a suggestion and we don't like it, then they feel helpless, where maybe we wasn't even looking for a problem or a solution at that time. And men do not want to hear that they're wrong again and they can't fix a situation immediately.
I can contest to that. That's true, yeah, because we do problem solve. Because, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe it's like innate or nature or nurture, but I know that sometimes women want the men to solve. So we're like, up to the challenge, and we're like, okay, what do you want me to do? And he's like, oh, I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to listen. It's like, wait, what? And yeah, when we suggest something and you don't appreciate it or don't like it or don't take the advice, we're like, oh, well, I mean, that's it. That's all I got,
Right. And Martin, I'm glad you pointed that out, because think about it this way. What if the woman said, you know what, I need you to listen. I need to get this off my chest and help me figure it out. But just listen. Don't help me fix it right this moment. Here's what I'm thinking and feeling. Wouldn't that give you this permission as a guy to just sit back, honestly turn off your listening just a little bit, so you don't have to take everything in at 100%, and just be there as she talks it out and figures it out. And when she says, hey, what do you think? You can throw something out there. But wouldn't it be easier than having to work so hard to jump in and interrupt and give a solution that, she don't want to hear anyway in the beginning?
No, it would. It definitely would be to give that little precursor. I remember I found this video on YouTube, and I suggest everybody should watch this. And it's hilarious. And I don't know if you've watched it already, Christy, but it's called It's Not About the Nail.
Yes.
That is such an amazing video, and I'm like, yes, I mean, no pun intended, but that guy nailed it. Like, this is exactly how it is. Like, you want us to solve the problem, and he's like, no, just listen to me. And it was like, but I know what the situation. I know I can solve it if you just would listen. And they're like, no, it's not about that. It's not about that. So it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a great one. Thanks for sharing that one again. That's a wonderful example.
Yeah, no problem. Have you heard anything, like, what has the worst ultimatum you've encountered with your clients?
I would say the worst ultimatums I see, because I see the fallout from, is when women give that ultimatum that if you don't propose to me by a certain time, I'm going to leave. And then what happens is either the guy goes along with it, is just mad and angry and ends up acting out in some way, or the guy's like, well, that's not going to happen. And the woman's like, well, okay, well, I'm going to stay, but I'm going to be resentful because you didn't follow through and propose to me. And then we got a whole other host of issues that come up in the relationship. So for me, in my experience working with people, that's the worst one I see, because it damages both people in different ways.
So how do you deal with that? Like, how do you even begin to try to fix that? Because that sounds so damaging. Like, nobody won right there. Nobody won. It's a lose-lose. So how do you deal with that?
Right. So when it comes up, the first example would be when the guy just goes along with it just to make her happy. They don't end up in my office right then. They end up in the office a couple of years down the road. Typically, they're not the first 3 years of marriage. It's 3 or 4 years or more. Typically around 6 or 7, especially if they have a kid and the kids there, because then the relationship absolutely changes and the energy shifts to the child being the central part versus the couple. And so what will happen is they start growing apart, their communication goes down, and when we start digging through and unpacking some of that baggage from that relationship, it does come out. Hey, you know what, I'm angry because I felt pushed in this, but it's my fault because I said yes anyway, and I'm resentful about that. So then what happens is, since they've got a couple of years behind them, then you can say, okay, well, do we want to look at fixing it and resolving it, which is why I think they're there in the first place. And if both agree to that, then it's helping the woman heal from his anger of being resentful that, and feeling maybe she manipulated him in some way, but taking responsibility because he's the one that went through with it. Working on connecting and building back trust. And the second example is when the guy says, well, I'm not wanting to get married right now. I need a couple more years or a couple more months or whatever, and I'm not going to do it. And she ends up staying with him. Then she's resentful. Then she's becoming, I'm going to use the term, nagging, or continues to bring up another ultimatum. And then they just get pushed further and further apart. So when they arrive at my office or through video with me, I start out by saying, okay, what are your goals? What do you want help with? And so we really try to get specific with what problem they want to solve. And I can tell you, and that's why I brought it up a little bit earlier, is all of these problems that a couple has all can relate back to trust, issues with trust. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. Trust is triggered. There's an issue with trust. And so we start there in healing that foundation and trying to see where this intimacy and connection with one another is in tandem with trust, and work on healing that.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Jen, do you have any thing else to say?
No, it's so enlightening. I do a lot of the stuff you said, like, hit home, because, like, I know a lot of times, like, I stop myself from saying things because I don't want my boyfriend to resent me. Like, I don't want him to, think that I'm just, like, here to nag him. Like, I just, at the end of the day, I'm excited for the future, and I want him to be excited for it, and he kind of, like, just takes life day by day, as where I'm like, oh my God, we can, like, get married and we can, like, travel the world. And I'm, like, in my head, like, being a female and being a Pisces, I'm, like, all over the place, and he's like based in reality. He's just like, we have bills and we don't live together yet. And I'm like, yeah, but we can do all this. We can do everything. It's going to be great. And he's just like, calm your ass down. So, I mean, I definitely want to, like, take this month to kind of, like, fall back and kind of just see where things go. I don't want us to break up, but I do want him to understand, like, that, I'm not going to, like, be in this relationship for, like, another year, and it's going to be like, oh, you live there, I live here, and, at that point, I just feel like, we're all just dragging our feet here, so.
Well, if I can comment quickly on that, Jen, first of all, he's lucky to have you, so very grateful he needs to be. And number two, maybe you mentioned that to him that way. I want to make sure that you realize what I'm wanting is I'm not having another year go by where I don't want to complete another year for it being like that. That's kind of what I envision.
Right.
So that he doesn't feel that it has to happen within a month or that type of thing. But you're telling him what you envision and the way you just described it. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great way to do it, and just another way to bring it to his attention in a different way.
Right. Well, is there anything that you would like to add about any of this, or maybe about your practice, or if there's any like social media that anyone can follow you on?
Yes, please. How can people find you?
And where is your book located? Because I mean, not only would I like to grab a copy, but I'm sure some of the listeners would like to check it out.
Sure, absolutely. And Jen, I'm going to send you a copy, but y'all can go to my website's therapy department. It's all the way spelled out, THERAPY department.com, and the ebook versions of the book is on Amazon. And so they're available there. And I'm on Twitter at Chris Overstreet, and I'm on Facebook at Therapy Department and Christy Overstreet. I have 2 pages there. So absolutely. I'm really thankful for the topics that y'all address and speaking so openly and candidly about issues that are really difficult to talk about. And y'all give your audience permission to talk about those hard topics. So I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me be a part of it.
No, definitely. Thank you.
No, thank you too. And
awesome.
I forgot to tell you, I love your last name.
Do you?
It's awesome. I don't know, like the whole Christy Overstreet. Like what? Like that's awesome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, and I'll pass that along to my family.
All right, then we'll see you later, Christy.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, y'all.
All right, and that was Christy Overstreet.
She's my new best friend.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I'm gonna find her now.
Yeah, and definitely I guess we'll just you'll write to her to get to give her your address so she can send you that book. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, so there you go. Friends with Benefits talk and about ultimatums, and yeah, we don't like them, but we can get through them. You just gotta talk. It shouldn't come from a command or demanding place, but more an inclusive, like, hey, what can we do to get this better, as opposed to like, hey, you're the one who's wrong and you need to fix it or I'm out. So I definitely appreciate Christy talking about that. It was really awesome. It
was really cool. I definitely I'm so insightful right now.
Yeah. See, now you got some powerful ammo. I'm more intrigued now to hear what's gonna happen in the next couple of weeks, and I'm sure the audience is too with your relationship, because I think you got some really sound advice and some really good advice.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit of that I'm doing already, but at the same time, I definitely need to be more like aware, like she was saying. So I'm just excited. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So we have reached the portion of the podcast where it's Song of the Day, and I don't know if you necessarily have something for us on either Friends with Benefits or Ultimatums. I don't know if there's a song.
I feel like there's a song.
Either or would be fine.
All right, well, you give our social media. I'm gonna look up real quick if there's I feel like there's got to be a song with Friends with Benefits.
Sure, not a problem. Yeah, there's got to be something. So let's see. If do you have Friends with Benefits? Please. I mean, well, you don't need to necessarily let us know, but do you feel that it's an alright thing? Like, yeah, of course we can have Friends with Benefits. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, I have one right now. It's awesome. Or you'd be like, nah, you shouldn't. You should make that into a relationship. Or do you want to have your Friend with Benefits be a relationship? Please email us at bedlovebeyond@gmail.com, and you can hit us up on Facebook, facebook.com/bedlovebeyond. Sorry, I'm just doing this by memory. And also you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, and YouTube at bedlovebeyond. And I don't know our phone number by heart. But I think Jen is giving me the wink. I think she has found the song of the day.
In 1995, everyone's favorite person, Alanis Morissette, wrote a song called Head Over Feet on her Jagged Little Pill album.
That was a great song.
And she sings about how she fell in love with someone who she says she was friends with benefits.
Oh, it's awesome. Okay.
It's a great song, too.
Yeah, it is. It is a great song.
Thank you again to Christy Overstreet. I just friend requested her. I'm going to stalk her. No, I'm not going to stalk her. I definitely want to like get some more insight from her. And
yeah. And remember,
awesome.
remember she said, she'll hook you up with that video. I mean, you could do the
the
book,
video,
but the video conferencing or the therapy. So that's awesome too. All right, cool. So that is the end of the show. I am Martini.
Still Jen.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.